I wrote the words, hate the song. I just don't think it's very good musically. I don't think it's much of a melody.
For 50 years, he was simply the piano man, a storyteller from Long Island who turned the lives of ordinary people, the bartender, the waitress, the real estate novelist, into musical legends. Billy Joel became one of the best-selling artists, ever by writing songs that felt like home. He was the everyman, a guy you could imagine grabbing a beer with. But behind that friendly face and the stadium-packing anthems, another story has been brewing, one kept under wraps for decades. What if the piano man was also a quiet critic, a fierce defender of his musical principles who watched the industry's changing tides with a skeptical eye? For decades, Billy Joel has been famously cagey about his opinions on other artists. He's a pro who knows the unwritten rules of the game. But now, at 76, with his epic Madison Square Garden residency over, the whispers are getting louder. A rumored list has been floating around for years, a list of bands Joel allegedly couldn't stand. This isn't about simple jealousy or chart battles. It's about a clash of philosophies. It's a story of authenticity versus artifice, songwriting versus spectacle. Today we're looking at the myth of this list, exploring the real history, the industry feuds, and the artistic disagreements that fueled a secret disdain he supposedly held for half a century. We're investigating the 6 bands Billy Joel reportedly hated the most, but as we're about to find out, the truth is way more complex and a lot more revealing than just simple hatred. It's a story about the soul of music itself. Before we name names, let's get one thing straight: the whole idea of a Billy Joel hate list. For years, this has been a rumor kicking around the deep corners of music forums. Why? Because it's a great story. Billy Joel, the relatable, down-to-earth musician, has always had a defiant streak. He's a New Yorker, known for being direct and unpretentious. This is the same guy who, early in his career, would get so mad about bad reviews that he'd read them on stage just so his fans could boo the critics. He's a fighter who sees his craft as honest-to-God work. His whole career has been a defense of a certain kind of popular music, built on strong melodies, stories in the lyrics, and classical foundations. In a 1980 interview with Rolling Stone, Joel said, "Bad reviews don't bother me, but a lot of these critics are looking for art. The thing that got me about that was, people who are looking for art in rock and roll or pop are looking for something that either doesn't or shouldn't exist." There. That quote is the key to everything. Joel sees himself as a craftsman, not a fine artist. He's a composer in the tradition of Beethoven and Chopin, just using pop music as his medium. He even admitted once he felt like he hadn't forgiven himself for not being Beethoven. This fierce dedication to old-school songcraft is where the rumors of his hated bands come from. It isn't necessarily personal, it's philosophical. When new movements like punk, new wave, or the image-obsessed era of MTV came along, it was inevitable Joel would see them as a threat to what he held dear. So let's be clear. The idea that Billy Joel, at 76, suddenly published a list of his most hated artists is pure rock and roll mythology. As of August 2025, there's no verified interview or statement where he's done this. The quotes you see online of him trashing these specific bands are almost entirely unverified, likely cooked up for drama. So why are we here? We're investigating the myth. Why these 6 bands? What's the grain of truth in these rumored feuds? By looking at Joel's documented career and artistic principles, we can figure out why these specific artists became the poster children for everything he supposedly stood against. This list, real or not, is the perfect way to explore the culture wars that defined music in the late 20th century. The story isn't that Billy Joel hated these bands. It's that he cared so much about music that he saw their rise as a challenge to his deepest beliefs. The first name on this rumored list is maybe the most philosophically loaded, The Clash. On paper, it's a weird matchup. Billy Joel, the ultimate American arena rocker, and The Clash, London's politically charged punk icons. They lived in totally different worlds, but that's exactly where the rumored conflict begins. The story goes that Joel's problem with The Clash was what he saw as massive hypocrisy. The Clash built their entire identity on rebellion, writing songs about unemployment and anti-establishment rage. But when they came to America in the early 80s and started playing arenas just like Joel, he supposedly saw it as cultural tourism, not real expression. There are some sensational, unproven quotes floating around where Joel supposedly said things like, "These guys sing about American problems like they're visiting from another planet." While there's no proof he said that, it nails the heart of the rumored conflict. Joel, the guy who wrote Allentown about displaced steelworkers and the Downeaster Alexa about struggling fishermen, saw his subjects as real people. He might have seen the Clash's approach as a shallow academic take on American struggle, sold by outsiders who hadn't earned the right to tell those stories. The context of the early 80s is key. Punk, once a raw underground movement, was going mainstream. The Clash, with their album Combat Rock, hit it big with Rock the Casbah and Should I Stay or Should I Go? For a guy like Joel, who paid his dues in piano bars for years, their fast track to stardom might have felt unearned. His longtime drummer, Liberty DeVito, said that for Joel, music was personal, rooted in the feel of his New York band. The idea of a band just adopting. The struggles of another country as a style would have gone against everything he believed in. In reality, there's no record of a public feud. The rivalry was more of a silent philosophical one. Joel stood for classic American songwriting, inspired by Tin Pan Alley and early rock and roll. The Clash represented a new British wave that was tearing rock apart and rebuilding it with global politics and reggae beats. Joel messed with different styles himself, like the new wave sounds on his 1980 album, Glass Houses. But it was always through his own unique filter. He wasn't putting on a costume, he was seeing if the suit fit his story. He likely saw the Clash as doing the opposite, building a story to fit their rebellious suit. So, did he hate the Clash? Unlikely. He probably just viewed them with a musician's skepticism, questioning if their message was genuine. If the rumored issue with the Clash was about authenticity, the supposed disdain for Duran Duran was about a new force changing everything: MTV. By the mid-80s, music was suddenly visual, and nobody mastered the music video like the Pretty Boys from Birmingham. The rumor mill says Billy Joel saw Duran Duran as the ultimate victory of style over substance. They became superstars off of glossy, cinematic videos shot in exotic places. For Joel, who believed a great song should work on a tinny car radio, this was basically blasphemy. The unverified stories claim Joel was furious, seeing them as little more than models with synthesizers. One juicy but totally unsubstantiated rumor claims Joel refused to give them an award, telling organizers, "I won't validate artists who've reduced pop music to background accompaniment for fashion photography." That quote is almost certainly fake, but it points to a very real conflict. MTV split the music world. On one side were artists like Joel, who came up through live shows and radio. On the other were the new video stars, whose visual image was everything. Joel himself has talked about this pressure. In a recent interview, he mentioned his general distrust of TV's priorities, saying, "It's really all about the visual. You'll see a big screen and a little tiny speaker, and that should tell you enough about where their priorities are." He said that decades after MTV's peak, which shows you how deep this feeling runs. For Joel, the song was everything. His process was music first, lyrics second. His songs were little three-act plays. He prided himself on being a songwriter, even seeing himself more as a composer than a singer. Duran Duran's approach felt like the reverse. The concept and visual came first, and the song served the image. It's not that Joel was against videos. He made them, like the one for Uptown Girl. But his were extensions of the song's story, not fashion shoots. Duran Duran, with their yachts and supermodels, were selling a fantasy. Billy Joel was selling reality, just with a really good melody. So this feud wasn't personal. It was a proxy war for the soul of pop music. Joel stood for traditional songcraft. Duran Duran represented a new world where the visual was king. Their real battle was over the definition of a pop star in the 1980s. Our next two artists represent another front in Joel's artistic Cold War. The battle against intellectualism in the rock. Talking Heads and Devo were two of the most critically loved and ambitious bands of the new wave scene. They were brainy, experimental, and to some, pretentious. For a straight shooter like Joel, their music was likely everything he wasn't. Academic, emotionally distant and made for critics, not regular people. The rumors claim Joel found these bands unbearably smug. There are fake stories of him complaining that Talking Heads was a graduate seminar pretending to be entertainment, and that music should bring people together, not make them feel stupid. While these quotes aren't real, they get to the heart of the philosophical divide. First, Talking Heads. Led by the brilliant David Byrne, they blended punk, funk, and African rhythms with lyrics about architecture and modern anxiety. Critics adored them. But for Joel, who wrote about love, loss, and the common man, then there's Devo. They were basically a performance art piece built on a satirical concept, the de-evolution of humanity. With their yellow jumpsuits and robotic music, they were mocking conformity. For Joel, a classically trained pianist who worshipped Beethoven, this might have felt like an attack on musicianship itself. Joel's music is built on sophisticated melody and harmony. Devo's was often deliberately rigid and repetitive. It's important to remember Joel dabbled in new wave himself on glass houses.
In It's Still Rock and Roll to Me, he sings about sticking to his guns despite the new wave bands. He wasn't dismissing the genre, but he resisted the idea that he had to change. He was a populist and probably saw bands like Talking Heads
And Devo as elitist, making music for an exclusive club while he made music for everyone else. Again, no public feud ever happened. This hatred was a clash of worldviews. Joel believed in the power of a beautiful song to connect with a mass audience. Talking Heads and Devo believed in the power of music to challenge and provoke. They wanted you to think. Billy Joel wanted you to feel. In his mind, one was entertainment. The other was homework. If Duran Duran was about style over substance, Madonna took that idea and ran with it. She wasn't just a musician, she was a cultural phenomenon, a master of image and controversy. For a traditionalist like Billy Joel, she reportedly became the ultimate symbol of everything he thought was wrong with 80s pop. And unlike the other rumored feuds, there's a small public piece of evidence for this one. During a 2014 Madison Square Garden concert, Joel used a throat spray and joked to the crowd, "I saw Madonna use this once. It didn't help her much." The audience roared. It was a quick jab, but it was a direct shot, implying a lack of vocal talent. This gives a little credibility to the wider, unverified rumors. Those rumors paint a picture of deep resentment. They claim Joel saw Madonna as a brilliant marketer, but a mediocre musician who used spectacle to hide a lack of artistry. He supposedly saw her calculated controversies as a betrayal of an artist's main job, to communicate through music. Think about how different they were. Billy Joel's identity was fixed. He was the piano man. His image came from his music. For Madonna, the image was the art. Every album brought a new persona designed to dominate the culture. Joel, on the other hand, just wanted to write songs. He famously stopped writing pop songs after 1993, partly because the process became torment, and he was obsessed with the craft. Madonna was obsessed with the impact. This is likely the root of his disdain. Joel believed an artist's personality should come from the music. An unproven quote has him saying, "Real entertainers let their music create the personality, not the other way around." Whether he said it or not, it fits his values perfectly. He likely saw Madonna as having it backward. The conflict was between the craftsman and the multimedia mogul. Joel saw being a musician as a noble profession. Madonna saw it as a launchpad for cultural domination. He wanted his songs to be timeless. She wanted her moments to be unforgettable. For a purist like Billy Joel, that distinction likely fueled a quiet resentment that every so often bubbled up as a joke on stage. We've been navigating a world of rumors and speculation, but this last one is different. This one was real. The feud between Billy Joel and Elton John wasn't a secret. It was a public, painful, and deeply personal clash between two men who were friends and the reigning piano men of rock. For years, they were brothers in arms, even launching massively successful face-to-face joint tours. But behind the scenes, things were tense. In 2011, it all blew up. In a now infamous Rolling Stone interview, Elton John let loose with what he called tough love. He slammed Joel for his struggles with alcohol, calling his time in rehab light. He goes to rehab where they have TVs, Elton said. But the worst part was about the music. Elton said he was frustrated that Joel had stopped writing pop songs. "It's either fear or laziness. It upsets me," Elton declared. For Joel, this was a huge betrayal. These words came from a friend and peer, out in the open for everyone to see. Joel later admitted how much the comments hurt him, saying Elton chalked it up to, "Oh, he's a drunk," and that really hurt me. He said there was bad blood for a little while, and that the remarks hit him at a personal low. The Feud also shined a light on their different career philosophies. Elton kept releasing albums while Joel had quit pop songwriting after 1993. Joel even revealed this was a private argument between them. Even Elton John would say, "Why don't you make some more new albums?" And I would say, "Why don't you make less new albums?" Joel recounted. This gets to the core of their differences. Elton, the showman, felt an artist's job was to always create. Joel, the perfectionist, believed if he couldn't meet his own high standards, it was better to be silent. Songwriting had become a curse for him. Thankfully, this story has a happy ending. The two piano men eventually made up. When Joel beat Elton's record for most shows at Madison Square Garden, he played a cover of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road as a tribute. This feud is the exception that proves the rule. It shows that when Billy Joel really has a problem with another artist, it doesn't stay a secret. The very public nature of his conflict with Elton suggests Joel isn't a man who holds secret grudges. He's a man who feels things deeply, whether it's the sting of a bad review, the pressure of songwriting, or a public betrayal by a friend. So, what's the real story? Is Billy Joel the secret hater of the rock world, or a dedicated craftsman who was misunderstood? The evidence points to the second one. The hate list is really more of a philosophical disagreement list. But that's what makes it so interesting. We want to know what you think. Who do you think Billy Joel secretly admired or disliked? And which side are you on in these great musical debates? Let us know in the comments below. And if you love exploring the hidden stories of music history, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. So, we're back where we started, but with a much clearer picture. The sensational idea of Billy Joel at 76 dropping a hate list is for the most part a myth. It's a great rock and roll story that says more about our love for drama than it does about the man himself. There are no confessions, no tell-all interviews. Just one very real, very public feud that's long over. What we found instead is something much more interesting. An artist in a decades-long fight for the soul of popular music. His rumored conflicts weren't about jealousy. They came from a deeply held belief system. Billy Joel is a traditionalist who believes in the sacred power of melody, harmony, and storytelling. He allegedly saw the Clash as cultural tourists. He reportedly viewed Duran Duran and Madonna as symbols of an industry that cared more about spectacle than songs. He supposedly looked at Talking Heads and Devo with the skepticism of a populist who believed music should unite people, not make them feel dumb. And in his one real public feud with Elton John, we saw the pain that comes when art and friendship collide. It revealed a man who puts immense pressure on himself, pressure so intense it made him stop doing the one thing that made him famous, writing songs. Today, Billy Joel is a titan of American music. And with the release of his 2024 single, Turn the Lights Back On, he's carefully stepped back into the spotlight. Not because he had to, but because it finally felt fun again. The story of Billy Joel's hate list isn't a story about hate at all. It's a story about love. A love for songwriting so fierce that he became a guardian of its integrity. He wasn't a hater, he was a protector. He was and always will be the piano man, defending his turf, one timeless melody at a time.